leader of the free world. Remember him? Here he is in Africa and he's being guided around Angola, which he seems to think is a city.
You know, with you in Angola, a vibrant city, and I look, not the city. The city I know is not Angola, but in Angola, in a vibrant city.
Glad he cleared that up, or he may have looked foolish. Soon he was on much firmer ground talking about his favourite topic, trains.
I'm probably the most pro-rail guy in America. I've ridden over 1,300,000 miles on a daily basis to my work.
Okay, you know, these days people ask Joe Biden how he sleeps at night with all the lies he's told, the damage he's done to the country. Turns out he sleeps just fine.
Of people, goods and services, but will also promote shared prosperity and inclusive growth across the region. Internal consultations aiming at aligning this project with national priorities and other bilateral and regional commitments. In closing, allow me to reiterate Tanzania's commitment to regional integration and shared prosperity.
All right, guys, have we talked about the fact that America is back, okay, with Trump becoming president-elect after a landslide victory over Kamala Harris? It seems as if the world is already healing itself, okay? It feels like Trump is already president, to be honest with you, okay? And we can see that when Trump is dealing with other world leaders on the world stage, like, for example, at the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral in France. Trump clearly was the center of attention, okay? Something that MSNBC really didn't like to admit, because as one of MSNBC's reporters is talking about Trump clearly being the most prominent leader there, right? I mean, he was in the middle, right? He was actually in the leadership position as, you know, the president of the United States of America. The host of the MSNBC show tried to move on to a different subject really quickly. Take a look.
Trump and President Macron, and then, of course, when there was the addition of President Zelensky.
Right, we are still waiting for a readout from either the Trump team or from President Zelensky or Macron's team about the specifics of that meeting. Again, this was all happening here in the last hour before they made their way over to the cathedral. As you watch more world leaders and dignitaries exit their motorcade to enter the cathedral here. When it comes to President Macron and President-elect Donald Trump, Yamiche, you know this from the first White House, is that those two struck up a deep relationship, one that was sometimes tense. In other moments, though, where President Macron used flattery as a form of winning over the President-elect Trump. And that is where, at one point back at a World War I commemoration, just days after Donald Trump touted himself as being a nationalist, the president of France used that moment in that speech to suggest and condemn that nationalism was not in good favor for globalism and a united front and the alliances that NATO especially has allowed the European Union and other allies to really move over the last 7 decades, the world order in a much more strident position. I think that this is where, when you're looking at some of these scenes here, I think it's important to note, if I may, Yamiche, the seating arrangement. We were able to see a photo of the seating arrangement just before everybody started entering the cathedral, and President-elect Trump is placed in the most prominent seat, and that is the one. And
it's really interesting. I want to just say, Vaughn, that we're also seeing the First Lady, Jill Biden, entering here. So I want to continue to let you do your reporting, but just to mark the moment that you also see now the First Lady of France, that's French President Emmanuel Macron's wife. She's now there with the First Lady, being Jill Biden, of course. So, Vaughn, I know you were talking about what's going on there. I want to, while I have you, also in some ways talk about what Emmanuel Macron is going through, which is that this was a tough week for the French in general in French Parliament. You have that they passed the French Parliament, that is a no confidence vote against the Prime Minister and his cabinet, effectively toppling the government there. With that in mind, I wonder what you make of this moment for Macron.
Yeah, so you see that, you hear that, okay? You saw how that woke host tried to change the subject after the reporter was saying that, Trump is in the most prominent position, right? Clearly, you can see that he's the top dog in the room among world leaders, right? Yeah, that's not something that MSNBC liked their reporters admitting on air, which, again, is that Trump is the alpha in the room. Even over French President Emmanuel Macron, who, tries to one-up Trump every now and then when they meet up, and it results in pretty awkward moments like this. Yeah, so we can see the body language, right, between President Trump and Emmanuel Macron, okay, the arm wrestling between them. I mean, it is literally an arm wrestle anytime they shake hands. But again, the reason why is because that is how men assert dominance, right, through handshakes, okay? It is extremely important to have a strong grip, right? I mean, that's something that I learned very, very, very early on, that having a strong grip is extremely important as a man, okay? And Trump clearly is exerting dominance over all of the other world leaders during this trip. And this is something that The View is not going to like, right? Because Joe Biden is missing in action, okay? Last time we saw Joe Biden on the world stage, he was literally sleeping. So they're going to cope over the fact that Trump is the standout figure. He's essentially already acting as president of the United States, even though he's not in office yet. So without further ado, let's get into it.
This weekend's reopening celebration of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris was attended by world leaders like French President Macron and Ukrainian President Zelensky and the UK's Prince William. You know who was there, too. And remember, he said he's not the president, and yet he keeps acting like he is. But he had a friendly exchange with the First Lady, which he ended up using to hawk his cologne on social media, along with the caption, "A fragrance your enemies can't resist."
I think he named it Fight, 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 which is like not the type of clone I'd pick out, because usually you're trying to attract people, not
he claims in the
them.
fight, he describes there's a fight for men and a fight for women. The fight for women is for women that can accept challenges with grace.
But you lost me at the first fight. I don't go to any cologne entitled Fight Anything.
That kind of perfume's not going to smell great or
no,
anything
it's
like
not.
that.
But the people are enraged
tacky
about the picture between Dr. Biden and President-elect
Should
Trump.
she have kicked him in the nuts?
No, I actually I totally disagree. I think we take too much to pictures until you're one of those people in a picture where you say that's not what was going on. There are two more pictures I pulled of that same thing where you look, it's not quite as cordial looking. There might be more going on.
Oh, that one is
I honestly care less about the shaking hands or kind of showing up and passing, the results of an election along and democracy than I would like to see President Biden a little more, because right now I feel like we're seeing Dr. Biden, we're seeing Trump take the kind of the reins, and a lot of progressives are saying that President Biden's ceding power, and I know there's not a lot he can do in a month.
He was at the Kennedy Center.
But I'd love to see him reassure.
It's hard for him to be in a whole bunch of places.
I agree.
On a foreign trip to Africa.
Yeah, in which, again, he was sleeping. Something that Anna Navarro is not going to mention. The reason why you're not seeing Biden show up at all these events is because Biden literally doesn't have the energy to do so. Biden is an 80-plus-year-old man who's losing it, right? And again, last time we saw him on the world stage, the man was asleep. But Trump, as you can see, there's a drastic difference, right? I mean, again, if you contrast Trump at the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral versus Joe Biden in Africa with African presidents, There's no comparison. One looks presidential, one looks strong, one looks ready to lead the world, and one looks weak. One looks like he's tired. He looks like he's not really a leader, okay? It's really that simple. And they know this. This is why they're upset. This is why they're coping over the fact that Trump commands respect everywhere he goes, that he's already basically acting as president. He's already acting as president, and Trump is just being himself. He's not doing this on purpose. He's being himself. It shows you just how strong of a leader Trump actually is. He's not even president yet, but yet he's the most prominent figure at these events on the world stage. He's in the middle. He's in the center. He's the center of attention. Everybody is rallying around him. He's technically not even in power. He doesn't have any power. Again, this is the type of stuff that you really can't teach, right? It's almost like you're either born with it or you're not, okay? And clearly Trump has something that a lot of these other world leaders don't have, and we know damn well Biden doesn't have it, okay? And with that being said, these people are so upset. What they really should be asking is, where's Kamala, right? Because these are the same people that tried to sell to the American people that Kamala was ready to be president. See, if Kamala had the juice, okay, she already would have been acting as president. Everybody already would have saw her as presidential. But the fact is that not only is Biden missing in action, Kamala's missing in action as well, too. After she tried to convince the country that, hey, she was ready to run things. The first thing she does when she loses is she goes on a drinking trip. And then every time you see her, she appears as if she's wasted. Like she's been binge drinking ever since she lost the election. So, again, the contrast between the old leadership and the new leadership is very clear, right? Everybody can see the difference. The world is already healing itself. Trump is basically already president. People are already treating him as if he's president because the leadership that we have now currently that's officially in office is so weak. It's so weak. So, again, I think this is more of an indictment on Kamala more so than Joe. Why is it that Kamala is letting Trump upstage the current administration? When, again, she was selling to the American people just a few weeks ago that she was ready to lead. Just saying.
Last week, and then
it'd be nice if he held a press conference. That's what President Obama did when Trump took over the first time. It'd be nice just to have a little speech or something. I care less about a photo.
On the photo, it's important that not just America's allies are watching, but America's adversaries are watching that moment. And the world was watching this election, waiting with bated breath to know what was going to happen. And to know that there's a peaceful transition of power, that despite my warnings and others about my concerns about Donald Trump, which are still very real, that America's going to move forward and that the First Lady is going to be able to be cordial to him on the world stage. Also, at the outskirts of this, he met with Macron and Zelensky and talked about the war in Ukraine. And that's something I care deeply about. And I want Donald Trump to come around to perhaps continuing to support Ukraine and standing by the U.S.'s position. So my point when I say I'm not going to be apocalyptic, it's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire. Yeah. If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But like you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen and then call out relentlessly the wrongdoing.
Well, let me say this. First of all,
clearly you can see Sonny Holston and the Cackling Hens. They are triggered by Alyssa Fair Griffin saying that, yeah, when Trump does things I agree with, right, that I like, that I think are good, you know, I'm going to cheer him on. And when he does it, you know, not so much. They don't like that, right? Because you're supposed to just hate Trump for everything he does. Regardless of what it is, you're supposed to just hate him, okay? But I don't think that Alyssa is going to get her way when it comes to Ukraine, right? I think Trump is going to try to force a peace agreement, okay? And again, that is why you see Trump basically dragging out Zelensky. And every time Zelensky is around Trump, he doesn't seem as hawkish as he is when he's around Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, right? When Zelensky's around Trump, he seems to be a lot more of a reasonable person, okay? Now, when it comes to the Israeli hostages thing, you know, I believe that hopefully Trump will do something about that as well, too. But the fact is that, you know, with Trump in office, it's almost like we have hope. We have hope of resolving these conflicts on the world stage, something that we didn't have under Biden and Kamala.
Well, I really congratulate the French for having completed the reconstruction of Notre Dame, which I think is so significant for the entire world. It was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. They did a beautiful job. What I find interesting, though, is, okay, Jill Biden is nothing but class, and Donald Trump is nothing but crass. Because what's ironic to me is, okay, so he's now using this picture to sell one more object, right? And so apparently people voted for him because they couldn't afford the price of eggs. And he said yesterday in that interview that it was about groceries. But the grift never ends with these people. He's selling golden sneakers, $10,000 watches,
He's not
digital
selling
trading
me, although I
cards.
look the part.
He's selling Bibles. This cologne is $200. Melania was on Fox News selling Christmas ornaments. Remember the lady who said she didn't like Christmas? For $100. I mean, the grift with these people. This is what you got, America. This is what you got.
Well, you know, I'm not worried about it. He can sell as much of that stinky stuff as he wants to.
This is what you call hating, right? This is what you call hating, right? They just hate on Trump for selling merchandise. As if that harms anybody. If you can afford it, great. If you can't afford it, hey, he's not making you buy it, right? It ain't hurt nobody, but this is what they're concerned about. They had nothing to say about Kamala Harris's campaign, though, being the biggest grift, the biggest scam in American political history, when you had all these people donating to her campaign just for her to waste the money and go into debt, and then to turn around and to beg people for more money to pay off her debt because she spent all the money on silly things like paid endorsements and fake interviews and stuff like that. That's what they really should be talking about if they're concerned about a grift, if they're concerned about the American people getting ripped off. The biggest grift, the biggest scam happened with Kamala Harris's campaign. But again, you know, this is nothing but hate, right? They're hating on the fact that clearly Trump is now the leader of the free world. He's not even in office yet. And again, he's already being treated as if he is president of the United States. They can't stand it. But again, what you're seeing here is the difference between the leadership of Trump and the leadership of the Democrats. It's not even close, right? Everybody can see the difference, and you're already seeing the world change. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.